little secret squirrel information. It is no fun to edit. And I didn't have a video for this week because, as you can see, the sun is shining here in the Pacific Northwest, and that means I've been up to projects. I think I'm going to make a video, but I put in a new, see where my finger is? Keep moving it around. There we go. Anyway, I've been up to projects like that new roof vent, and I'll give you a glimpse inside maybe in the coming weeks, but that's what I've been doing. Well, that and waxing. I didn't use new finish. I used something else and I'm not happy with it, so I went and bought a new bottle. New finishes like the Miracle, stuff I've used for years. This will probably be dark, but I'll give y'all a glimpse inside. We've got a new runner down there, and we've done away with the cargo net. So if you've never watched the channel before, stand by. We're gonna have some improvements, but I thought for a special treat, we can go through my embarrassing history. About a month ago, I shot my most embarrassing video, and I thought I'd just air it publicly because I was frankly a dumbass. So take from it what you will. Please forgive me because I was still freaked out when I made the video. So it's a little funny. There's no actual physical video evidence of what occurred, but stay tuned and enjoy. Next time you see me, I'll be in Hanksville, Utah a month ago. All right, welcome back. And so we have an exciting week here in Hanksville. We're just about done here, but we had a good time. Hanksville is famous for being kind of one of the hangout spots of the Wild Bunch. You may have heard of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. This was kind of their old stomping grounds. This is where the cops came looking for him after a variety of train robberies and bank robberies and that sort of thing. So Hanksville is 2 gas stations, one of which is the Hollow Mountain gas station, where literally the convenience store and office for the gas station are burrowed into the side of a hill, effectively. And there's a general store, there's a second gas station. It's a cool little town. A lot of open range, and I'll get back to that because I have some serious... There's going to be a real serious component to this video, so just hang on. But we did some hiking in the area. Unfortunately, it rained for a couple days, rained and snowed while we were here, and we're kind of in April right now, so that's weird. But it did do that. This ground out here, if you're not familiar with kind of Utah, southern Utah especially, and I guess we're more in central Utah right now. If it rains out here, the ground, it's hard to describe. It's almost like quicksand, and so once it gets a little moisture in it, good luck. We came very close to getting stuck. We did some hiking for the first couple days, saw some sights. We saw something called Long Dong Silver, which is a spire. I didn't name it, but we did that earlier this morning. We've again seen a variety of sights, taken some dirt road tracks, that sort of thing. But unfortunately, we had a mishap of a variety of mistakes that I personally made, and it was kind of calamitous. It took us 2 or 3 hours to extricate ourselves. By the way, how do you like the building behind me? Isn't that cool? But anyway, so yesterday we went out looking for what's it called? Fossilized wood, basically. Anyway, I'm forgetting the term, or it's eluding me now that the camera is running. Petrified wood, that's what I'm looking for. We went looking for petrified wood off I-95, just kind of south of the town for, I don't know, it's 15 miles out. We get in a wash. We parked literally 50 meters off the road and on a marked regular kind of government dirt road, and went into a wash. And as per our usual, if you watched our other videos, we have our adventure dog Zena, and the first mistake that I personally made is we got out of the vehicles. I left my pack and any sort of equipment that I might have had with me, like survival type stuff, was in the car. But again, we started out just walking down this riverbed looking for this petrified wood in my mind, we were going to go a couple 100 yards and probably return to the vehicles and then drive somewhere else. Well, I was mistaken. We walked about 1.5 miles, 2 miles, maybe 1.5 miles down this sandy wash riverbed area. And as we're wont to do, Dana and I, when we're out in the middle of nowhere, we typically let Zena just kind of roam around. And what I hadn't factored in is this country that we're in is open range. And open range, if you don't know what that is it's public lands that local ranchers are allowed to graze their livestock. I didn't factor that in, and that was my mistake. So mistake one, I left my pack in the car. So that means no extra water, no first aid kit, no a variety of things that I carry in my pack. And in fact, I didn't take a camera. We were just going to be out, in my mind, out of the car for a couple minutes. And we make this trip out there. We're in this wash. It's basically, steep canyon walls, that sort of thing. So I thought, what's the harm? And I let Zena off the leash. And that led to about 3 hours of chaos. And so Zena goes off the leash. We come around a bend, and there's 3 cows there. And these are open range cattle. And she immediately goes for them. And they do immediately what open range cattle do, which is they take off. And she's in hot pursuit, and we can't get her back. And so we kind of wait and call for her in that area, thinking she'll let them go or that sort of thing. Well, that doesn't happen. And we start walking back to the car, and I see a crevice in the slot canyon we're in, or in the canyon we're in. Again, I don't have any video for this, and I'm not sure if I'd want video of it, but we go up other big mistake, maybe number 3, is we're staying in a group. There's Dana, William, and Julie. We're all walking up this thing. Well, I just kind of darted off up this wash, up this little slot canyon to get to the top of the wall to get to the dog, because she's up above us at this point. And I didn't have I carry my cell phone, which has Gaia GPS. I hadn't marked the track, another mistake. But navigation wasn't challenging. We had come off a north-south highway. I knew we were a couple miles east of the highway, and to the west of me, I could see this big butte. So navigation wasn't really that big a deal. However, for fine navigation, it would have been awful nice had I started my GPS. And there's no cell phone, by the way. There's no cell phone reception where we're at this point. And I don't have any two-way communication. I've probably got 3 radios I could have brought at my house, but Dana and I normally travel together, and we don't spread out that much. It's just extra gear that I didn't bring, which I probably will in the future. So we've got no communications. I have not told them where I'm going, which is a problem. I basically am dressed in a similar fashion to what you see here. Got my, whatever I've got in my pockets, which, a can of chew, pocket knife, Bic lighter, and a wallet. And that's it, and my cell phone. And so I get up on top of this kind of butte, and I see a water trough and a big solar structure, which is kind of powering an electric pump and that sort of thing. There's obvious signs of cows kind of coming and going from there. And then across the canyon from me, I see the 3 cows, and I hear Zena barking. And so I start making my way across the canyon, which, if you've ever been out here, that can be a whole evolution in itself, because she's probably, I don't know, 1/8 of a mile away, and I can hear her barking. But I could see her with the cows, and at this point she's like herding them and snapping at them and stuff like that. And I was like, well, this isn't good. I respect the people that live here, and these ranchers don't need my little yappy dog like chasing their livestock around. The last thing I want to do as a tourist in these guys' land is to come here and somehow inconvenience them, or in how they're making their living. This is not a rich community by any stretch. And so I cross the canyon, which immediately, of course, the cows go the opposite direction and cross the canyon back from where I just came. And so we're leading up to some of my more horrendous mistakes, which is I finally kind of close with the cows and the dog. I can't get her. I'm 20 feet away, 30 feet away, and trying to yell at her. These cows are freaked out. It's fight or flight for them. And so the last thing I'd want to do is hurt one of these ranchers' cattle, or, you know, potentially see my dog get hurt. And they're kicking her and doing things like that, and she's going after them. And so this is really a dire situation. And so the biggest mistake I made is I closed on the cows. And one of the cows saw me as a threat, understandably, and charged me. And if these are not little cows, these aren't like little trophy cows or mini cows or anything. These are like full on, you know, 1,000-pound, multi-1,000-pound cows, not bulls, but cows. And this cow took me off my feet like nothing flat, like literally head-butted me to the ground, and I had to dodge hooves, and I'm still kind of recovering from that. And this goes on for a couple minutes because, to be honest, I live in a rural area. Oregon has plenty of cattle ranchers. I am not a cowboy. I do not know how to do cowboy stuff. I know freaking zero about how to deal with cows, especially really angry cows. That is not my forte at all. So this thing has its way with me for a couple minutes where it literally knocks me to the ground 2 or 3 times, at which point I kind of figure out that when it charges me, I can kind of push its head to the side. These aren't like agile attack cows, but they're, you know, they're frightened for their life. And so it's kind of nip and tuck. And at that point I retreated from the cows. I'd learned my lesson. I have no way to intervene, get the dog back, whatever. But the cows start meandering their way, kind of, I guess it would be west, toward the highway, which is again a north-south. And so I could follow them. I kept them in sight, and I was able to follow their tracks because they were fresh. You know, again, it's been raining out here, so I saw the fresh cow tracks, and I could see the little paw prints of my dog headed out that way. And at this point, I'm trying to think of ways that I'm going to explain to Dana how I've killed our dog, because these cows are battering her a variety of different ways. They're holding her on the ground with their heads, they're kicking her, they're doing stuff. And so to me, it's pretty dire, but after being thrown to the ground several times, trying to intervene, I realized that, you know, short of having a firearm, which is not something I would, you know, shooting somebody's cow is insanity, and shooting my dog's kind of out of the question too. Maybe some pepper spray, which I carry bear spray in the car. I could have broken this little tussle up. I don't know if that would have been effective. I'm not recommending it to anybody. It's just a thought. Having a better trained dog would be a good plan. So at this point, I've gone into more my personal safety mode. After, again, being knocked to the ground multiple times, I was like, well, F the dog. I guess we're going to have to, you know, she's done for at this point. And so my plan is to go back to the highway, go directly west, and then walk south to where the vehicle is. And then keeping in mind, this whole evolution that I'm talking about walking is 4 or 5 miles. And I do wind up walking most of it. And so I kind of track them out toward the highway. I actually get to the highway myself and begin my trek south to get to the car. And at one point, the people out here are so nice. This guy, obviously local, well, he had a big cowboy hat. He's driving a Dodge diesel pickup, towing a Bobcat. I'm assuming he's not a tourist. Sees me, disappears south of me, and then comes back like 5 minutes later, offering to assist me and give me a ride or to see if I'm in trouble or anything like that, which, I mean, kudos to that guy, right? But anyway, I told him, no, I'm just gonna walk back to the car on the off chance I see the dog and see Zena, and I've got the leash and I'll just hook her up. And I'm not that far at this point. I'm within a mile of the vehicle, but I feel more comfortable just walking. That way I can have more sense and sight and that sort of thing. So I continue walking. I make it a several hundred more yards, and Honda, one of those crossover pickup Hondas, I forget what they're called. Nice little truck passes. There's not a ton of traffic on this road. I say highway, but it's a 2-lane road, and another vehicle passes, and this time it's the little Honda pickup, and it passes me again 2 or 3, maybe a minute, 2 minutes later. It comes back, and there's a nice couple in there, and they said, hey, are you looking for your dog? We saw you have a leash. And I said, why yes, I am looking for my dog. They're like, oh, it's back down the highway here north of you, maybe 500 yards past where I had cut the road. And they said, yeah, we tried to separate it. At first we thought it was a working dog because it appeared to be herding the cattle. And But then we realized, you know, obviously if you've seen Zena on the the videos, she's a little short thing. Her head, like bottom of her feet, top of her head's like that big. So we're not talking a cattle dog whatsoever. And on top of that, she's wearing a harness. And they were like, yeah, we saw her. We tried to call out to her, but whatever. Do you want to ride back? And this is where I get so lucky, because my plan was, Zena loves the car. So my plan was to retrieve our vehicle and then go back to where I had last seen her and hopefully honk the horn and she'd come back or something like that. But these people had obviously seen her. They gave me a ride back to where she was at. She was in the highway. Fortunately, she didn't get hit by a car. There's plenty of visibility. It's hard to hit something in the road here. But that being said, she was in the middle of the highway. I jumped out. At some point, the cows had managed to break contact with her. I'm not sure what they did, but she was alone. And at this point, she was very, very compliant and came right up to me, put her on the leash, and the nice folks gave Zena and I a ride back to our vehicle. So then we get into the rest of the story, if you will, which is because I hadn't told anybody what I was doing, where I was going, or had any communication with them. As far as they knew, I just disappeared up a slot canyon. And again, this is my mistake. It's not anybody but my mistake. And so we get back and just my forerunner's there. Dana's not there. My brother and Julie aren't there. Their Jeep's gone. So I do some quick math. Of course I had to give the dog water because she's freaking toast at this point. So I give the dog water, jump in the rig, and I head on the road. I guess it'd be eastbound on this dirt road, thinking, well, they probably are just trying to go down the dirt road and see if I cut the road somewhere to try to pick me up. At this point, I'm thinking Dana is with William and Julie, and that was not the case. So like I explained, they did what I thought they would do. They were just running the road south of us, or not south of us, but east of us. And I encountered William and Julie, and I was like, oh, well, where's Dana? And William was like, well, she grabbed her pack. She was going to go down the wash and see if you pop back out somewhere. And I'm like, great. So now we've got another missing person. Fortunately, Dana is much smarter than me, and she had her pack with all her gear. And then on top of that, she actually stayed where she said she was going to be. You know, she communicated to William and Julie, this is very specifically where I will be walking on this path. And it's a very well-defined area. And so we actually four-wheeled into where we ultimately met up with Dana, and everything was okay. But I can't tell you how relieved I am that we got lucky. I got the dog back, and I didn't get hurt. I'm a little bruised up, but not significantly injured. Dana, more importantly, is okay. The dog's okay to a lesser extent. I'm still a little angry at her, but for me not to make these mistakes is pretty common sense stuff. You know, I have a background in this stuff. You know, it's not like I'm, you know, Johnny who just came out in the middle of nowhere with no gear and no plan and no training for this sort of thing. I literally have been a search and rescue volunteer since like 2016, 2017. Like I have some background in this. I've been at the other end of this, trying to find people who make dumb decisions. And here I am. I'm that guy. I took off with basically nothing and no plan and no communication, and, you know, not because of any skill on my part other than basic navigation. I'm here to talk about it. I mean, it could have gone so, you know, had the cow injured me up there, there's no way they could have found me. And again, I'm in a rural part of Utah. I'm guessing search and rescue resources out here are basically nil, because there's not a lot of, well, I mean, there's need for it, but, you know, these are not wealthy communities with tons of volunteers to go out and do SAR stuff. And so I really, really put myself in a bad position. And I would encourage you, regardless of what you think might happen, prepare for the worst. You know, when you jump out of that car for a little walk around the neighborhood type thing like I did, take your pack with you at least. Ideally, you're going to take some navigation. If you have, like I have, which I don't even have to carry a separate GPS. It's literally on my phone. All I had to do was open the program, hit track, and put it in my pocket and not worry about it. You know, I had a fully charged phone. It could have easily tracked me and done all that stuff, but instead I didn't have that. And of course I'm offline. I'm in Utah where I don't have any maps, but that function of the GPS still would have functioned on my phone. I don't have a new enough iPhone that I could send an SOS. You know, the newer models of iPhone have satellite communication. Unfortunately, I'm cheap. Phone's like $1,000. I'm just not going to spend the money on it. But you know, there's all these things that piled up, and typically when you talk about survival situations, and I'm sorry, I don't have any video for this. I'm not sorry, I didn't take a camera, and I'm not here to like videotape my surviving the Utah desert. But you know, I made a series of small, poor decisions which could have ended up much more dire. The reason I didn't, you know, things didn't go wrong for me or more wrong for me is not because of skill, it's because of luck. And I would want to emphasize that. I always want to try to do things that are safe, or if they aren't a safe thing, at least do things to stack the deck in my favor. You know, if you go walking around the desert, it's not necessarily a safe thing to do, but there are things you can take, like a pack with supplies, you know, water being among the biggest ones. A form of communication, again, going back to, I have a number of two-way radios. I am a ham radio operator. I could have probably figured that out, but I didn't bring the equipment, you know, and it was dumb on my part. So with that, hopefully I have explained, confessed to my my terrible decision making as we were adventuring here in this beautiful place. And we hopefully will get out of here in a couple days. I think it's Sunday, we're leaving on Tuesday, so maybe I'll add in some more adventure stuff. But if you have stuck around this long, 100% come to Hanksville. I'm not 100% you should stay at the RV park we're at currently. However, it's nice enough. We were fortunate to stay in the RV park because it was raining, and going back to that whole, if you're off grid here and it rains, you're better off hanging out for a couple days and not getting stuck, because like I said, it's very deceptive here. But if you do come to Hanksville or anywhere in this area or in Utah, period, I would encourage you to download an app where maybe, I think Dana does that for me, but Campendium is one I know she uses. I know iOverlander exists. There is epic camping around here for free. And that would be my one criticism of other criticism of our adventure. But a little different tone to this video. Again, I made a series of small mistakes, and they amounted to a big catastrophic adventure. And it took us, I'm guessing we were probably unraveling this whole mess that I created. Again, you'll notice I'm saying I created it. Took us about 3 hours. And again, this is me with a lot of hiking experience, a lot of off-road experience, a lot of, you know, land navigation experience. Although I was never lost, like in my own favor. I wasn't actually lost. I knew where I was at, but it could have gone a different way for sure. I could have got turned around for sure, but I didn't. And so, and this is with me traveling with other experienced, you know, William and Julie are both veterans. William also participated back in the day with search and rescue. We all have law enforcement backgrounds. We all have emergency first responder type backgrounds. And I still created this situation that was easily avoidable and would have been much more comfortable. You know, instead of getting knocked to the ground by a cow, I could have had a can of bear spray and sprayed him. It's not going to hurt him. I mean, it's going to hurt him immediately, but, you know, it wears off, you know, and that may have changed things. Although I'm not advocating in any way you go out and bear spray livestock. But if they're tromping on you, you know, again, this is all a series of situations that I created. You know, for sure, I put myself in harm's way by trying to get the dog away from the cows. You know, that I shouldn't minimize that, you know, and again, I'm struggling not to minimize my own culpability in all the things that took place. But having said that, on a higher note, please come to Hanksville. It's awesome. Just don't let your dog off a leash like an idiot so it goes and chases cows. You know, that was the first first of many mistakes. So I appreciate you hanging out for more of my marginal content, my little talking head here in front of this awesome ruin. And we'll see what we get up to next. I think we've got some Oregon content coming up. Love you guys. Please tune in again. mile hike. I think it was more like 2 miles. I'd say this was a success.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.